Hey guys! So we're trying this new thing, and we'll see how that goes. Um, so hopefully you're all doing well at home. I'm actually recording this from home, so hopefully my dog stays semi-quiet while we're doing this. All right. Okay, so where we left off last time, we started with talking about like different industries and looking at like primary, secondary, tertiary, right? Those different parts of industry. Today we're going to be looking more on a broad scale with different measures of development. We're mostly looking at like development of countries. So first, the very first one, so this is a vocab word, just so you know. So it's gross domestic product, also known as GDP. This is determined by adding up the selling value or market price of all the goods and services that are produced in a country per year. Sometimes the GDP, we see it, they split it up between different quarters, so each year is split up into four different quarters. But most of the time, if you're just looking at GDP, you're looking at for the whole year. Gross domestic product, the gross part means before deductions. Another kind of way that we can explain GDP is so the total market value of all final goods and services produced within a country in a given period of time, right? Usually calendar year. So really we're looking at how much all the stuff that's being sold inside the country is worth. Our nominal GDP is, it's in terms of money. So nominal GDP is that money's not adjusted for inflation versus real GDP, which is adjusted for inflation. Here I got this from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis. I put the link at the bottom here, wherever it is. But so this is the United States real GDP, right? So it's been adjusted for inflation from 2016 to 2019, and each one's split up into the different quarters. So, right, we can see, different times of year have different impacts on the economy. This one is from the same website, same link as before. This is the percent change in real GDP by state between Q2 and Q3 of 2019. So if we can see, if you guys look at Utah, so we had a 3.2% growth rate in our GDP between quarters 2 and 3. Right? Other states didn't grow as much, but overall the United States was growing during this time, so we don't see any negatives in this map. GDP per capita is our gross domestic product per capita. Per capita means like per person. So what you do is you divide the total amount of goods and services that are produced by a country by the population of that country. And that gives you like a rough estimate of like how much, like on average, how much money people are making like per day or per year, excuse me. Based off of the goods and services made in that country. And if you hear my dog is squeaking her bowl. So yeah, it's just GDP divided by all the people in the country. This is, so population in cities, right, or urban population versus the GDP per capita in 2016. So if we look at this chart, so the different colors tell us what continent it is. For example, red is Asia. On the one side, so we have share of population living in urban areas, right? So the higher up on this graph it is, the more people you have living in cities. For example, Singapore, right? Singapore is pretty much all city, so everyone in Singapore is literally living in an urban area, right? So they are at 100%. Right, versus like Rwanda, that's like below 20% of the people are living in an urban area. At the bottom, we have our GDP per capita, so right, our GDP divided by our total population of the country. And we can see, right, so Singapore, you could say, so most people live in the city, but they're also making quite a bit of money per person, right, per capita, if you divide it out, right? So they're more well off than some of these other countries. GNP is our gross national product. This is determined by adding up or summing the selling value or market price of all the goods and services that are produced by a country's companies throughout the world in a given year. So GDP and GNP, so there's going to be some differences. With GNP, let's say we have an American company that is in Japan, right? So let's say KFC, right? KFC is an American company, and they have, stores in Japan, right? KFC stores in Japan. GDP would not count the sales, right? The sales in Japan. GNP would, because it's an American company. This gets kind of tricky because in the United States we have a lot of companies that are based in other places, right? Which means that adds into their GNP, but not ours. So here's a quick picture. I put my source in like the speaker notes if you pull up this slideshow later, but it's from The Balance. This says, right, GNP is the value of all goods and services made by a country's residents and businesses regardless of production location, versus GDP, which, right, so here we have a picture of the United States, right, we have German companies here, we have Japanese companies here, right, French companies, all those things, but with GDP, we're measuring what's made in the United States, regardless of, if it's a German company or not. So if, right, you buy skis that are from a French company, but they're made in the U.S., right, that'd go towards GDP, but it wouldn't go towards GNP because it's a French company. Our HDI is our Human Development Index. This includes characteristics such as our life expectancy, literacy, education, standard of living, and it's these things that affect people's lives, no matter what culture they are. So today with your assignment, you're going to look at some of these characteristics. They're going to pull up when you're looking up some of that information. And purchasing power parity. This is a measurement of development. Essentially, when you're looking at exchanging currency, this plays a big role in that. So if I'm looking at the cost of milk in the United States, right? So let's say here in the United States, I can buy a gallon of milk for $2, right? But in Germany, right, where they have the euro, let's say that gallon, well, it'd be in liters, but same amount of milk would be, maybe it's €3, right? So then essentially what we're doing is we're taking cost of good in one country and dividing it by the cost of the good in the other country, and that kind of tells us like how much money you need to buy, say, a gallon of milk in another country. So down here at the bottom I have, right, a little visual for you. Maybe that helps you visualize it a little bit more. It's a math formula, right, that helps us figure out, right, that measure of money and development. Okay, So for your assignment today, you are going to be looking up some information for 3 different countries. This is going to include things like their GDP, their GNP. We're going to look at things like life expectancy as well, kind of throwing it back to our population migration unit. So in Canvas, right beneath where you got to write this video, so the assignment's going to be titled 7.2 Development Comparisons. And here I have, right, so we have a Google Doc that has 3 tables that are going to be the same. So you'll have a country, you'll write down what level of development. So you should have a most developed country, a developing country, and a least developed country. And I'll post that list somewhere before I post this video. Anyway, you're going to go to the CIA World Factbook and insert the information below. I'll have that link on Canvas, or you can simply just Google CIA World Factbook and it'll come up. So right, you'll need the total population. Is the population growing, declining, or at replacement level? What is the median age, life expectancy at birth, infant mortality rate, and languages spoken? That's all going to be found under the People and Society kind of tab. Under the Communications tab, I want to know how many cell phones, right, or mobile cellular telephones there are, so total number of subscriptions. This number sometimes seems really off because sometimes people have like more than one cell phone, so it might seem like bigger than you think in some countries. We're going to look at the GDP per capita, GDP by sector, so you're going to say like, okay, well, how much of this country's economy is agriculture, how much of this country's economy is industry, and then our services. So really this is you could look at it as your primary sector, your secondary sector, and like your tertiary sector. I also want to know the unemployment rate and what type of government. So real quick, so CIA World Factbook, so I already pulled it in here. So I just Google search CIA World Factbook. It's the first one that comes up. And this is what it looks like, right, when it comes up. If you scroll down a little bit, right, so here's our World Factbook. You can come over here to this drop-down menu, right, and pick a country. Let's say I want to do Belize, okay? So I hit Belize, it's going to take me to the page for Belize. And there's a map, we have what the flag looks like, where it's located. Then scroll down, right, and here are the different kind of tabs. So if I want to know about, right, the economy, to get that GDP stuff, right, here's our GDP with our purchasing power parity, real growth rate, right, but we want GDP per capita. So you're going to do the most recent one that it gives you. For some of the countries, it's going to be 2016. For some of them, we'll get some later dates. So right, I would put $8,300. Right, agriculture, industry, services, right, so do the percentages, right, when you fill that out. And then when you're finished with that, please submit it to Canvas. If you have any issues or you need any help, please reach out to me, either through Canvas or you can email me. Those tend to work the best. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe, stay inside. Yeah, see ya.